Pizza is one of the most widely eaten foods in the world. For many people, it is a weekly ritual, a Friday night tradition, a default when nobody wants to cook. And for people who are managing their cholesterol, it is also a source of genuine concern. Is weekly pizza driving their numbers up? Should they eliminate it? Is there a version that is meaningfully better for their heart health? Registered dietitians and the science give a clearer answer to these questions than most people expect. The answer is not that pizza is off the table, but understanding why it affects cholesterol and what makes the difference between a pizza habit that damages your cardiovascular health and one that does not requires looking at specific mechanisms rather than treating pizza as a single undifferentiated thing. Start with the most important clarification in modern cholesterol science. For decades, people believed that eating foods high in dietary cholesterol, like eggs and shellfish, was what raised blood cholesterol levels. This turned out to be largely incorrect for most people. The main dietary driver of LDL cholesterol, the form that accumulates in artery walls and drives cardiovascular disease, is saturated fat intake, not dietary cholesterol. Pizza's relevance to cholesterol is primarily a saturated fat story. A single slice of standard cheese pizza contains approximately 5 grams of saturated fat. The American Heart Association recommends limiting saturated fat to about 6% of total daily calories, which on a 2,000-calorie diet works out to roughly 12 grams per day. 2 slices of cheese pizza already approaches that daily limit. Add pepperoni, sausage, extra cheese or bacon, and a 2-slice serving can easily double it. Saturated fat raises LDL cholesterol through 2 mechanisms. First, it reduces the activity of LDL receptors in the liver, which are the proteins responsible for pulling LDL out of the bloodstream and clearing it. When those receptors are down-regulated, LDL stays in circulation longer and at higher concentrations. Second, high saturated fat intake can increase the liver's production of LDL particles. Both effects push LDL cholesterol in the wrong direction. Processed meat toppings specifically, meaning pepperoni, sausage, bacon, and similar options, are the highest saturated fat components of a typical pizza. Compared to a plain cheese pizza, a meat lover's pizza with multiple processed toppings can deliver 2 to 3 times the saturated fat per slice. For someone managing LDL cholesterol, the topping choices matter as much as the frequency of eating pizza. The crust is the second factor worth examining. Standard pizza dough is made from refined white flour, which has had the bran and germ removed. Refined carbohydrates are not neutral for cholesterol. Diets high in refined carbohydrates can raise triglycerides, a form of blood fat linked to cardiovascular risk, and displace the fiber-rich foods that actively lower cholesterol. Fiber, particularly soluble fiber, binds to cholesterol and bile acids in the digestive tract and carries them out of the body before they can be reabsorbed. Every meal built around refined flour is a meal that probably did not include significant soluble fiber, and that absence matters for cholesterol management over time. The portion issue is real in a specific way with pizza. Pizza is not a particularly satiating food per calorie because it is relatively low in protein and fiber compared to its calorie density. The combination of refined carbohydrates, fat, and salt activates reward pathways in the brain in ways that make it easy to eat more than intended. 3 or 4 slices eaten casually while watching television represents roughly 900 to 1,200 calories for a standard cheese pizza, plus substantially more saturated fat than a single or double serving would. Frequency and portion size compound each other in their effect on weekly saturated fat intake. The pairing factor also matters. Pizza nights that include garlic bread, chicken wings, cheesy breadsticks, soda, beer, or wine stack additional saturated fat, refined carbohydrates, calories, and often added sugar onto the pizza's baseline profile. The full meal context is what determines the cardiovascular impact of pizza night more than the pizza itself in isolation. Here's the part that most people who enjoy pizza will be relieved to hear. 1 to 2 slices of pizza once a week, as part of an overall diet that is rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, lean protein, fatty fish, and unsaturated fats, is not going to meaningfully raise your LDL cholesterol or damage your cardiovascular health. The research and clinical consensus on this are consistent. overall dietary patterns determine long-term cardiovascular outcomes far more than individual foods eaten occasionally. A diet that is strong on fiber, low in processed meat and saturated fat, and abundant in plant foods and healthy fats can accommodate weekly pizza without measurable detriment to cholesterol. The practical modifications that make a regular pizza habit more cardiovascular friendly are straightforward. A thin crust or whole wheat crust reduces refined flour load and adds fiber. Vegetable toppings like tomatoes, peppers, onions, and mushrooms add nutrients, fiber, and antioxidants while keeping saturated fat low. Chicken as a topping provides protein with substantially less saturated fat than pepperoni or sausage. Anchovies, unusual as they may sound, deliver omega-3 fatty acids that actively support healthy cholesterol ratios. Limiting to 1 or 2 slices and pairing with a green salad adds fiber and volume that increase satiety and reduce the likelihood of overeating. Choosing red sauce over creamy Alfredo-based alternatives eliminates a significant source of additional saturated fat. Being thoughtful about what accompanies the pizza, opting for water or sparkling water over soda, or a single drink over multiple, keeps the full meal within a reasonable nutritional range. The bottom line from registered dietitians is practical and not alarmist. Pizza is not a food to eliminate from your life in the name of cholesterol management. It is a food to eat in appropriate portions, with better topping choices when possible, as part of a week of eating that is otherwise strong. The problem is never the Friday pizza. It is the Friday pizza plus the daily processed meat, the daily refined carbohydrates, the consistent low-fiber intake, and the limited vegetable consumption across the rest of the week. Fix the pattern, and the pizza fits comfortably. New videos every day covering the health information that actually helps you make better decisions. Subscribe and stay with us. The framing around individual foods and health is worth addressing directly, because the cultural tendency to categorize foods as either good or bad creates anxiety and restriction patterns that rarely improve outcomes. No single food eaten occasionally is responsible for elevated LDL cholesterol in an otherwise healthy person. Chronically elevated LDL builds over years through consistent dietary patterns, not through weekly pizza nights. The relevant question is always, what is the pattern, not what is the food? For people who have already been told by their doctor that their LDL is high and that dietary changes are necessary, the modifications described in this video are the ones most likely to move the needle. Reducing saturated fat from processed meats, increasing soluble fiber from vegetables, beans, and whole grains, and keeping portion sizes reasonable. Pizza can still be part of that pattern. It just shifts from a meat-heavy full pizza dinner to a 2-slice vegetable-topped meal alongside a salad. The enjoyment can be preserved while the cardiovascular impact changes substantially. Cholesterol management is a long game. It is built meal by meal, week by week, across years of eating. The decisions that matter most are the ones you make consistently, not the exceptions you allow occasionally. There is also good news for pizza lovers in what the research shows about the tomato sauce component specifically. Tomatoes are rich in lycopene, a carotenoid antioxidant with documented cardiovascular protective properties. Lycopene is actually more bioavailable when tomatoes are cooked and combined with a small amount of fat, which is exactly the conditions of pizza sauce on a hot pizza. This does not make pizza a health food, but it does mean that the red sauce base contributes something genuine to the nutritional profile of every slice.